Well, hello, my friends. Now, when it comes to this topic, I'm a master at this. Now, I'm not a master at the flip side of this, but I was really good, a master at being defensive. And I still do, right? I still have moments where I get defensive. But now I have a lot more tools and a lot more awareness around my emotion and thoughts that are pulling me when it's coming to defensiveness, that I really feel like I have some things that will help me and open me up to hearing other points of views, other sides of things, and not being quick to judge it, not being quick to get defensive and feeling as though I'm being attacked. Because, right, anytime somebody's feeling like they're being attacked, it makes sense. The first thing we want to do is go after that person that's attacking us because we feel like we're being attacked. And again, understanding, right, that brain that we have, that limbic system, the motherboard that is designed to protect us, keep us safe. If we emotionally feel charged, we feel our heart start beating, we start to sweat, we start to our ears start to ring. All these things start to happen, and our brain is triggered to say, you're in danger. So you get defensive. And understanding that it's because of a thought I'm producing, I'm believing a thought from the words that they're saying. They're saying something that I'm like, well, that's not all the way true. You haven't heard my side of the story. You don't really understand this, do you? These are thoughts that I'm having that are encouraging my defensiveness from what the words they are saying. It's not the words they're saying that's making me defensive. It is what I'm perceiving and seeing those words to be. Because, right, we all have some natural bias. We have certain ways in which we were grown up and raised and how we were perceived to the world. We have certain things that have happened in our life, right? Certain experiences that have happened that kind of form the way that we view things. And so it makes sense that we would get defensive about things in our lives that we feel we're being threatened by. Anytime we're feeling threatened, we want to lash back. And what I want to share with you in this video is ways to kind of diffuse that for yourself so that you can grow through your defensiveness. Defensiveness is not necessarily something we want to be proud of. Normally, we're not. I mean, I'm the master at this, so that's why I feel very much that I could share this. Whether or not I've mastered the other side of defensiveness, that's a whole other topic. But that I understand defensiveness and how it shows up in my life, how it shows up in my clients' lives when I'm doing coaching calls with them and we're exploring this for them, and just really creating a space for them to be them. Because the first thing that you do not want to do, or that is not very helpful, I guess, not that you don't want to do it, but it's not very helpful, is when somebody's feeling defensive, you say, you're just being defensive, right? Because what happens? We get more defensive. We get even angrier because we want to prove that we're not being defensive, that you're just not listening to us. You're not understanding what I'm saying. You're just seeing one side of it. You're not listening to me, right? We have all these thoughts around it, which is just exasperating our own defensiveness. Now we've just escalated it. We've become even more defensive. So one of the things that I have learned as a coach is when I have clients that are sharing, very sensitive things, that are sharing things that just tug at their heart. They are feeling undervalued. They are feeling being made fun of. They are feeling humiliated. They are feeling that they're not loved. They are embarrassed. They are frustrated. They're feeling these emotions, and these emotions are real in their body. They truly are. I believe it. It's real. The thoughts that we have, they become these beliefs, and they become so much so that we feel these sensations in our bodies, and it is real. So the last thing I need to do is say, you're being defensive. That ain't going to cut it. That's not going to work. And first of all, nobody's going to be able to see what it is that they're seeing or how they're seeing it and be able to step outside of it. It's going to be really difficult at that time. And so these are some of the things that I find are the best ways when it comes to defensiveness. First of all, you've got to listen. You've got to hear what they have to say, and you've got to be self-aware of your own thought process when it's coming to the defensiveness. So when I'm coaching somebody, I've already kind of done my work to really get to be non-judgment or have a prescribed idea of what they should or should not be talking about or thinking, because that's not my job. My job is to hold the space so that they can explore their thinking. So it's a little different, obviously, than when somebody's coming and we're having a conversation and defensiveness begins to kind of erupt inside of us, right? So defensiveness begins at that time. So I'm just sharing from things from my point of view as a coach in ways that could help as we explore defensiveness for ourselves, right? So as I'm with that client, helping them just explore it for themselves, as opposed to saying you're being defensive. So one of the things to help do, right, is the listening, truly listening to yourself, really understanding and getting very clear on the thoughts that you are having from the words that person's saying. And even if you need to stop and say, I apologize, I didn't get the last bit that you shared, because you were being defensive, because you were thinking about the words you're going to say back to them. When that starts to happen, be like, I wasn't, for whatever reason, I wasn't hearing that. Could you please repeat that? Because I want to listen to you. I want to understand where you're coming from. Even if you're on the hot seat, right? Even if somebody's coming after you. And you want to do that in the sense that you're trying to understand where they're coming from. And then you're also understanding why you're being defensive. Why is it that you're feeling defensive in this situation? What is coming up for you in this particular situation? And so letting them say words and listening to it. Being aware of the thoughts that now are creeping up, that as soon as you think that you're going to say this back and they're not done talking, you naturally, that is like a one red light, not a red light, a green light, whatever you want to, red or green, that you are now in defensive mode. Just because you now are ready to get back and to say this information back to them, or you figured out what you're going to say, you're interrupting them, you're doing that, you're automatically in defensive mode. You are there. You're there. So that's kind of one of those aha moments for yourself, is when you do that. When you're thinking about what you're going to say before they've even finished. So you're not really listening to everything they're saying. And you interrupt them as they're speaking. You're not letting them finish what they have to say. When you're starting to feel just see what you're feeling in your body. If you're feeling like you're sweating, if you're feeling like your heart's beating, if you're starting to talk faster, if you're talking louder, the volume, right, the tone in which you're speaking. These are great things for you to explore for yourself if you are getting defensive. Am I getting defensive? Why might I be getting defensive? And looking at it and saying, okay, so how do I want to be in this situation? Do I want to show up and listen to them and hear out what they have to say? Do I want that? First of all, be aware, right? Do I want that? Is this relationship important to me that I want to connect with this individual on a deeper level? Because when you become aware of your defensiveness, you actually are given now the opportunity to develop deeper relationships. It's the truth. As soon as you're aware of your defensiveness, you can actually now tap into something. You will connect completely different, because you won't be responding the way that you used to respond. You won't be reacting the way you used to react in these conversations. Instead, you're listening without intent of what you're going to say back. You're getting very clear. You're even, letting them know back, okay, so this is what you said. Is this exactly, am I hearing you correctly on that? Does that sound right? Again, engaging with them, understanding it. And then looking at it with defensiveness, when we can start, this is when you've kind of made it with defensiveness, that you're not as quick to be defensive, is when you can start to look at things and go right, what? You're not totally wrong. I kind of did that. You can start to see your part in the equation, and you don't have to try to justify your part. Be like, but you know what? You did this. This is my excuse for why I did this. I'm going to justify why I did this. Let me over-explain to you why I did this. Instead of doing that, you're like, yeah, I kind of did act that way. You're right. When you start to do that, you can start to see that you create this calmness in your own self, because now you've created space for people to be themselves with you. And they actually now know that they can be however they need to be, however they want to be, whatever that looks like for them. And you're not going to read more into it, or you're not going to try to overly explain yourself or justify yourself. You're now not being defensive. You're now actually willing to go like, yep, that was my part in that. Yeah, I can see that. And then you can also be like, yeah, I can see that. And you don't like go back and say like, but I did do this right. You don't need to say that. Because what I have found is that later when you can, if you want to address it, once that you've let them share all their stuff and everything that they've had to say, you can address back, how you feel about something, what you want to do, and seeing where the energy in that room has kind of become. But decide for yourself, is that where I want to be? Or do I want to leave on a higher note? See, the higher note isn't that I got you back, isn't that I made you really work for it. The higher note sometimes can be that you understood where you were at in that conversation. You can see why they might have thought that about you. You're going to work on trying to do better in that. You're like, yep, I do want to improve on that. Thank you for pointing that out to me. I want to improve in this. This is something in my life I'm working on, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. When you do that, that person's going to look at you so differently. They really are. Not because you were being persuasive, not because you were trying to get the upper hand in the conversation, but truly because you cared and you were wanting to listen to them and you were willing to hear it and not get defensive about it. You were willing to actually use that defensiveness, be aware that those signals are happening, calm your breath, right? Be aware of the thoughts you're producing, the emotions that are now coming up in your body, and you're saying, listen, I want to hear them out. Saying, hey, I didn't hear all that. Could you repeat that again? Repeating back what they said, being clear, and seeing your part in it without an excuse, justification, anything like that. Just seeing it, seeing how you could see it that they saw it that way. You're like, yeah, I could see why you would see it this way. You're not wrong, absolutely. And you are allowed to perceive the way that you perceive the situation. Absolutely they are. And you, as an individual, are allowed to use that information to help you become more centered in yourself. Now, this is the interesting thing about defensiveness. It's almost like we use it because we have to defend ourselves, right? The whole concept is, right, defending ourselves. I'm defending myself. And what I find is that the actual opposite happens. We create more tension, we create more distance, we create less actual area for improvement of self or anybody else in the equation. And we literally walk away and we feel like they weren't listening to us, I wasn't listening to them, and we feel just lesser as an individual, as opposed to actually using that time to really use it for your own self. Like, it is literally being selfishness when you don't get defensive. Because they're saying these words, you're looking at it, examining yourself, seeing like through somebody else's eyes, getting curious about yourself because you're wanting to improve yourself. You're becoming a better person because that's important to you. And by doing that, by investing that time, by being more self-aware of that, that you will connect deeper with people that you really want to connect to in your life. Whether or not they choose to connect deeper with you or not, it's not part of the equation. You've chosen now to connect deeper, and over time you will. Because you're becoming more aware of yourself and being present in that moment, as opposed to using that moment as evidence against them for later. Using that moment to explain yourself away. Using that moment to justify why they're a jerk, right? All these things that we can do when it comes to defensiveness that are actually making us weaker as a person, because we're literally beating ourselves up by not being present to learn how we can start to see ourselves differently. And why we're doing that, why we're learning to see ourselves differently, we are being present seeing them differently, and they will start to feel differently too. I find that with defensiveness, I realize through my past of being defensive for so long, I missed so many opportunities to connect with people deeper But guess what? Those opportunities are not lost. I can still reach out to them. Nothing is ever too late in life. I truly believe that is like saying or even thinking the thought it's too late. I believe you are really selling yourself short as an individual, as a human being, right, on this earth. You're selling, because it's never, ever too late. Like we always think that there's too late, that there's a time. There are some things in life, sure, like obviously I really can't have children anymore. I'm kind of past that age of my life. And so it's kind of too late for that, for me to give birth to a child. Doesn't mean I couldn't adopt. Doesn't mean I couldn't foster. Doesn't mean I couldn't do, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's never too late. There's always other solutions if you want to find them, if you're willing to look for them, if you want to see more possibilities, absolutely they're available. And I believe that in life in general, right? So there might be one door's closed, right? But the window's open for something else. It doesn't mean that it's the end all. And when it comes to relationships from the past, you can heal them if you want to. Does it mean they're ready to heal? Maybe not. But honestly, they don't have to be ready. You just have to be ready to listen and to learn from the times that you start to click into defensiveness and you're willing to learn from that and be present with it, not fight defensiveness. Realize it's there and use it to your benefit. Once we connect enough with our thoughts to our emotions, we can connect to so many things in our lives, to ourselves and to others, in a way that is just amplifying. And we actually just feel more fuller, more just abundance. Just abundance kind of starts coming to our lives because we've decided that. And being defensive is a sure way to close off relationships, to get more frustrated more often. Defensiveness happens to everybody. We are not immune to defensive. Even the like really, really nice people, the really sweet, kind people that you love, they get defensive. We all do. It is the being aware of that and seeing how we want to use it for our benefit. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this content. Reach out to me if you are ready to dive in and to really get, like I share these videos, but it is not the same as when I'm coaching you one-on-one. When you get coached one-on-one with me, it is a different ballgame because you are connecting truly to it. It's not just you writing down, taking the notes and learning from this, although that is really good. Like do that. Please do. Please learn all you can from the value that I put out there, this free content that I give. I love to hear that. I love to hear from people that are using it, that have found different perspectives because of it. It is so fun to hear that, and I love hearing that. But when you're ready to dive deeper, when you're ready to invest in yourselves, your relationships, your connections, and you are going through a transition in life. We're going through transitions all the time. Transitions are a great place to get coached because so many different things are happening that is the perfect time to get coached. Because I'm going to show you how to use all that to your advantage and not use it as a reason why you don't do something. You can use it as a reason why you are doing it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, my friends, reach out to me. I hope you enjoy this. Book your discovery call today. I will talk to you soon again. Bye.